everyone, welcome to another post-game review. This one is for Kingdom Hearts 3, which has just finished on the channel. Obviously, quick disclosure, there will be some spoilers in this video because I'm doing it after I finished playing the whole game, and there are some things that I want to talk about which are quite spoilery. So if you've not watched the series or you've not played the game and you want to, please bear that in mind, there will be spoilers in this video. So, that being said, where to start? This is a pretty big game for me actually. It's one I've been waiting for a very long time. I played the first or the second one shortly after it first came out. So that's been 15 years or so since that game, and obviously there have been ones in between, but the main console games are what I consider kind of the core of the story, and then the little ones are kind of just bolt-ons really, because I've not gotten on as well with the handheld games as I have with the console games. I just don't like the gameplay as much. It's just, I found them to be just, I don't know, just less satisfying for some reason. The stories are good, but I just didn't like the gameplay, so I just kind of gonna put those aside and just only think about the main games for me. So it was, because it was such a long wait for this game, it was a little bit surreal to actually be going back into it now. And it was really good though, obviously. I really enjoyed it. And it was great to see some of these stories that have been going on for such a long time, get some conclusions. So obviously there's the Aqua Terra and Ventus story was concluded in the end with everybody back and awake, and that was awesome. But I think for me the most satisfying arc was probably having a conclusion to the Roxas story, which started in Kingdom Hearts 2. So that was a very long time span for that to now be concluded. So that was really great actually to get some kind of closure on those stories. And I did feel like this game tied off a lot of the old stuff. Pretty much everything that has gone before has now been concluded. So it kind of leaves it open now to be continued into sort of different areas, which I'm hoping is going to be a good thing for the series, and they're going to kind of continue it, and it's not going to be another 15-year wait in order to play another game, or at least on the main console games. Anyway, the big consoles, not the main consoles. I'm not discrediting 3DSs and DSs and stuff as consoles. They can do quite a lot, it's a surprising amount, but on the big consoles, I think it's actually a shame that though they did this one on Xbox, they didn't do the other games on Xbox as well, re-release those. So I imagine people who have come into Kingdom Hearts 3 on Xbox without having played any of the other games are probably really confused about what's going on. The stories can be confusing enough if you played them before, let alone when you have never played any of them. I can still remember how confused I was when I played the first Kingdom Hearts game, and there was the big intros that they do with the cutscenes and stuff, which is sort of splices from the actual games and further in, so it's little snippets rather of the story within that intro, and you're just kind of I have no idea what's going on, because that's quite different to normal game. A lot of normal games will just have a big cutscene that is introducing you to that game, and it makes more sense, whereas Kingdom Hearts just goes, here's a bunch of stuff you have no idea what's going on with. Enjoy the confusion. Which is actually something I really like about it once you realise what it's doing. I think there have been kind of quite a good selection of worlds, I would say, within it. They were definitely a lot more modern than in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Those games had sort of some of the older stuff, and obviously it's been a long time, so there's been a lot of Disney films since then, so it makes sense that they would do these modern ones, because that's, what the current youngsters are. That's really weird. That's what the current youngsters have grown up with, so it's kind of what will hook in a newer audience. Although I would like to think that kids nowadays still like the old Disney films that I grew up with, and the ones that I grew up with are quite old themselves, so I would imagine that they do. But I did miss a little bit having kind of those older Disney games, like Disney worlds, like Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that. But I did enjoy these ones. I think my favorite world was definitely Pirates of the Caribbean out of the ones that they did. I really enjoyed like getting to sail about and upgrade my ship and explore the islands and things. I know I didn't show a lot of that on my playthrough. I think I went off after the crab hunt in Port Royal and probably spent about 2 hours just sailing around that world and exploring. So it was great fun for me, but there was no plot development within that, so I didn't think it was very interesting, so I just didn't include it because it was basically me just going off on a huge treasure hunt and having a lot of fun and getting distracted and then going, whoops, look at the time. So I had a lot of fun with that world, and it was really great to see all the characters. Like, I love Pirates of the Caribbean anyway, so getting to see those characters again, they were in Kingdom Hearts 2, some of them. So getting to kind of go back there and see more of them was always great. I did find my immersion was broken a little bit with the voice actor for Elizabeth, just because she was designed to look like Keira Knightley, but really didn't sound like her. So it just kind of kept, my brain just kept going, something's wrong. But that didn't like lessen the world for me or anything. It was just little niggle on that one. I would say though that although I loved the worlds and it was great seeing how they integrated Sora and Donald and Goofy into those stories, I did feel that they were a little bit disconnected from the main plot. Like, I can't think of anything within them that really affected the end sequence, like, at all. If you took any of those worlds out, the ending would still have been the same, barring Olympus and Twilight Town, like any of the worlds after that. So, Monsters Inc., Tangled, I'm trying to think of them now, Big Hero 6, what was the other one? Frozen. You know, none of them affected the end particularly. So the only purpose that they really served was to make Sora stronger, because at the beginning they said that he needed to regain his powers, and like because he'd basically got nerfed. So that was the reason you were going around to these places, I guess, was to level up. But that just kind of, like, there were things obviously on there with the organisation was at each of the places, and you know, in some of them they were saying, oh, there's potential new Hearts of Light or whatever they're called, but none of that kind of came to fruition, so none of it was necessary. Like, if you took out the Frozen world, just completely took it out of the game, it wouldn't impact the ending at all. And I think that's kind of a shame. Like, they didn't really add any significance to going to those particular worlds, which I would have liked to see. Even if it was just like there was something at the end of each of the little bits that fed into what happened at the end in some way, like in a small way, just so that you could say it meant something to go there. Because otherwise it just kind of feels like a bit of a filler. And if the only purpose to going to those worlds was to make Sora stronger because he was weak as hell at the beginning and rebuild his confidence, like, you could have achieved that with a 5-minute training montage like scene, or sending him off to Kairi and Axel and going for training, you know. So just him going there to train essentially just feels like a bit of a, just, I don't know, just not that much of a hook for going there for me. But I did enjoy them. I love Disney films, so going and playing with all these characters was great. It's just in the overarching plot, it just didn't have any significance, really, that I can see. If anybody has any thoughts on that and can see some extra significance that I didn't see, please do let me know, because it might just be something that I'm missing there. But, like, I literally can't see that if you took out all of those worlds, like, the ending would be any different, because the stuff that you learn in order to get the power of waking. You learn from Hercules in Olympus right at the beginning, the very beginning world, you know. You got that there. And Aqua, Ventus, and Terra had no impact on those worlds. So I can't really say, other than the novelty of going to those places, that it affected the plot particularly. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. I would also have really liked to have seen or had some more time of playing with some of the other characters within the worlds. As in, not like the characters within the worlds we went to, but like maybe getting to play a world with Riku and Mickey and see what they were up to, because obviously they were often doing a whole bunch of stuff as well. We only saw that in cutscenes and a little bit of fighting with Riku, but it would have been really cool to be able to like actually take control of those characters and go and do something that advanced the plot with them a bit more. And the same for Kairi and Axel. They're off doing all this training to become Keyblade Masters. Would have been really cool, I think, to have actually gone and done a bit of that training and seen where they were with Merlin a bit more, rather than just seeing it in cutscenes, because it just felt like they weren't in the game very much because you didn't get to kind of interact with them at all. And that would have kind of, I think, broken up the pace of it if you got to play with those other characters a bit more. I think that would have been cool. So I do have one negative feedback point on this game, like one big feedback point on this game, which is negative for me. And it might seem really insignificant, but for me, it is a big thing, because it is one of the things in the original two games that made me actually fall in love with these games. And that is, where are my Final Fantasy characters? Like, what the hell? Where are they? They're nowhere. There isn't a single Final Fantasy protagonist in the entire game. You've got a couple of Moogles, obviously, at the shop. You've got a Cactuar appears, and there's a couple of little mentions of characters, but there isn't a single one in the game. And I hate it. I really hate that. I loved those characters being in the first couple of games. It was what made me fall in love with them, because they were characters that I adored, and it was so unusual for me to see them in another game and also in a game together and in a game with other characters and things. And it was just such a unique thing that it made me adore these games. And that's one of the big hooks for me, the Final Fantasy characters and having Disney characters together. That mix was awesome. And we haven't got that in this game. There isn't a single one in it. And I think that's a real shame, because they've said that they haven't purposely written the characters out. They didn't exclude them on purpose, but it feels like they did, because you go to a number of the worlds which we've been to where we've encountered these characters before, and they're not even there. And there are a couple of mentions. So when we go to Olympus for the first time, they mentioned that Auron had been there at one point. Obviously, in Olympus, in the other games, we had the Colosseum, and in the Colosseum you had a bunch of characters show up, because the Colosseum was literally just an arena where you would fight with a bunch of characters, and so you would end up encountering some of these Final Fantasy characters. So Olympus is kind of a hub of where these characters have appeared previously, but there wasn't any there, and for the story that was happening, that makes sense to me that they weren't there. But there were other places that we went to where they should have been. We went to Twilight Town, and they've even included a line when you're wandering around where somebody says that they haven't seen Cypher for a while, and then someone else replies, this is just random characters in the background, not our group. Someone replies that Cypher, Raijin, and Fujin have gone off on an adventure. So, not even just, them ignoring them, they've acknowledged that they are there, or were there, and they've purposely written them out of the story. So you don't even see them just standing in a corner, It's not even a budget thing. You could literally have just put them in a corner somewhere in Twilight Town and had them only have dialogue boxes. You wouldn't have had to get voice actors for them. You just literally have to draw them. And that would be no more difficult than drawing any of the other NPCs that are wandering around Twilight Town. So that seems very deliberate, like, to have taken them out of there. And there's also the fact that you see Destiny Island several times. Obviously, it's in the ending, it's in through, like, various cutscenes. And Destiny Islands was one of the places where you saw a lot of the characters from Final Fantasy. You'd see Tidus, Selphie, Wakka, can't think who else, I'm pretty sure there was somebody else there as well. So they were friends of Sora and Riku and Kairi. And so, like, that end scene with them not even being there despite the fact that they're friends seems a little bit off to me, you know? And not having anybody there at all, it's like, well, where have they gone? Like, why are they not there? And the big one for me is Radiant Garden. Radiant Garden is where Ienzo and the ex-Organization 13 members are based. So that's where all those phone calls happen, and he's, like, doing all the bits and pieces, and it's where Riku, and he called him Ricky, Riku and Mickey, when they met the Organization members, and you don't see this is the homeworld of the Final Fantasy characters, and you don't see a single one, not even walking in the background in any of the cutscenes, and it doesn't make sense to me, because these characters are literally heroes. They are written to be heroes in their stories, and you're telling me that these characters don't give a crap about the fact that there are ex-bad guys wandering around their town and doing stuff, and they're not even slightly interested? Like, they wouldn't be involved in that at all, just to kind of be like, gonna keep an eye on you guys. You might be up to mischief. Like, oh yeah, we're just gonna instead, we don't care about the potential end of the world. You guys crack on. We don't care. We're just gonna chill over here and watch some TV. Like, it doesn't make sense, just on the basis of what those characters are, that they wouldn't be trying to support in some way what Sora and everybody is doing. And it could have, again, been really easy to just incorporate, like, Leon with the scenes with Ienzo, where he's helping those guys with what they're doing. And they had, like, they wouldn't even have to have made them talk if they didn't really want to spend on the voice actors. They had 2 Organization members, the Crazy Eyebrow Gang, didn't say a word in the entire game. So they couldn't have done a similar thing with some of the Final Fantasy characters, where they're just, like, in the background doing stuff while those guys are talking, just so they're at least present. And it makes it seem like they are doing something to help out. Sorry, this is a big point for me that they're not in it at all. I don't like that they're not in it at all, because it takes away part of the feeling of the first 2 games for me, and I wouldn't expect them to be heavily involved in the plot, believe it or not, with what I've been saying, because the main story isn't about them, and I get that, I really do. But to not have them in there in just, like, any way, shape or form just seems weird. Especially considering we've gone to places that they've been in. So that's all I'm going to say on that one. I will forgive them for this point if they do some DLC with them in later on. That will be their saving grace. If they do that, if they write something, because there is DLC apparently going to be coming out, though there's still no news on what it is. If they do some DLC which has got these characters in, even if it's just a little bit, I will forgive them. But until then, it has a big blemish on this game for me, because it is part of what I loved about the game series. And I was hoping to see more of them. Like, I was hoping to see what had happened with Leon and his whole crew, or the committee, after, like, the stuff that had gone on before. So... and see if Rinoa came back, because I really want to see her in the game. So yeah, that would just be that was my big disappointment with the game. I miss the Final Fantasy characters, and I'm gonna sulk about it. Nothing you can say. But that being said, this did not take away from my enjoyment of the game at all. I did enjoy exactly what they put in there. I just would have liked a little bit extra details in some places, or just little bits to improve it. But I did really enjoy this game. As I said, I really loved that it concluded so much. It was very satisfying to have these big stories that have been going on for so long get sort of finished off and closed off, and I'm hoping that they will do some more games. I would love to be able to play as some of the other characters a bit more. You know, if they did a DLC where you can play as Kairi, that would be really cool. And I am looking forward to seeing what they do with the series from now on and see what other worlds they incorporate. If there isn't a world in a DLC or the next game, which is Moana, they're missing a trick because that is a very popular game. I would be very surprised not to see that one coming. But yeah, so I suppose we'll talk about the ending. That completely floored me. I did not expect that twist at the end where you had Kairi and Sora sitting on the tree, and I was all like, oh yay, happy ending, hurrah! And then they just ripped that out from underneath me completely heartlessly. I was just like, what is going on? I don't have a clue how to process this in these 2 seconds, which you might have seen in my reaction to just being like, excuse me, what now? I was a little bit shocked by that. It was very well done. That was very well done, I think, because I did not see it coming, and I did manage to avoid spoilers for the whole game, so I'm really happy with that. I was just not expecting that. So obviously in the very last little scene, Sora and Riku are in Verum Rex, the game, so, because that's who the character was on the top, so he was being Yozora, or whatever the effective thing was. So I'm very curious about how that has happened, and if that's going to be DLC, or if that's going to be like next game picking up, and if Riku's there because he's looking for Sora, or if it's just coincidence, or what's going on. That's I'm very curious about that. And obviously there's this whole now scene with Xigbar where he's gone off and he's got his mysterious box that they've been kind of dragging in throughout the story. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I am hoping that they kind of leave the whole Xehanort story concluded now. I feel like that has run its course. And it would, for me, it would cheapen the ending that they did in this game if they then drag him back out. I would like that to just be a closed chapter of the story now. And see what Xigbar is up to and who those people were that met him, because I have no idea who they are. So yeah, I loved it. That was great. So I would also really like to hear what you guys thought of it in the comments. If you have played this game, what were your reactions to some of the kind of the big stuff that happened? Like, what did you think about the ending? What's your favorite worlds? I'd love to talk to some more people about this game and see what you all thought as well. Personally, I loved it. Missed the Final Fantasy characters, not happy about that, but I will forgive them if they do DLC. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next, really. So thank you very much for watching this playthrough. It has been a lot of fun, and on to the next.